In today's news, people trying to get insurance in areas affected by the earthquakes in central parts of the country are being refused. The Insurance Council says that will be for new policies as insurers wait to see how current seismic activity develops. And as Wellingtonians begin returning to work this week, city leaders say that businesses concerned about any visible quake damage at their workplaces should let the building owners know. Mayor Celia Wade-Brown says there's no evidence of structural damage following the shake, although 35 of around 2,500 buildings inspected sustained external damage. The Prime Minister is expecting for new lending rules for property buyers will be implemented. The Reserve Bank is looking at introducing measures that would restrict low deposit mortgage lending, requiring borrowers to front up with larger deposits when seeking a bank loan. John Key predicts that the Reserve Bank will go ahead with its loan-to-value ratio changes because doing nothing is not an option.
If we left the housing market completely unchecked in Auckland and it continued to go up at the rate it's been going up, then eventually that would be a bubble that would have to burst, and you would leave a lot of potentially first home buyers with very large loans and an overvalued property and effectively negative equity.
And the Prime Minister is also fending off criticism about how the government is progressing its contentious GCSB legislation. Opponents are protesting that the bill could pass into law by a single vote following yesterday's deal between the government and Oharu MP Peter Dunn. But Mr. Key says that's not unusual. And there is some secrecy as to what's stopping the government from closing the book on treaty payouts to Tainui and Ngai Tahu. It was agreed that the two iwi would get top-ups if the sum of government treaty settlements exceeded $1 billion, and $140 million was paid out last year, but for some reason the top-ups are still not final. Binding arbitration is being organized to resolve the so-called disputed items. And to international news, it's been 2.5 years since they got married, and a great-grandson for Queen Elizabeth has been born to his proud parents, Prince William and Kate, Duchess of Cambridge. The royal birth at 4:24 p.m. London time was announced in the traditional way, with a brief notice posted outside Buckingham Palace and on Twitter. The baby prince weighed in at 8 pounds 6 ounces, and while his name has not yet been announced, George, Henry and James are popular predictions. Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd is planning to send asylum seekers to Papua New Guinea, although that could take longer than expected. A permanent 600-bed processing centre was due for completion in January, but now a facility 5 times that size is needed, and the MP for Manus Island says that could take 2 years to build. There are also doubts as to whether approved refugees can be settled in Papua New Guinea under that country's stricter citizenship process. The operator of the crippled Fukushima nuclear plant has admitted that radioactive groundwater has leaked out to sea. Tokyo Electric Power earlier said that groundwater samples at the plant showed rising levels of potentially carcinogenic isotopes. The company insisted that would be contained by concrete foundations and steel sheets. But a spokesman said yesterday they now believe that water has flowed out to the Pacific Ocean, although that impact should be limited. And finally, the Pope is ready to begin World Youth Day celebrations in Brazil, an emerging economic powerhouse with recent unrest and a shrinking Catholic community. Pope Francis stepped off a commercial airliner and set off into Rio de Janeiro, where he'll be leading key events which begin in just a few hours and finish with Mass this Sunday. The pontiff's visit will include trips to a prison, a shanty town or favela, and a hospital, all in an open-backed car rather than the usual bulletproof Pope-mobile. Kanu nga karere mātua mai te whare kororo rima, mori ora.